Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Manny Talks Shooting is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. Did you know that Phil the Groundhog isn't the only thing Puxatawny, Pennsylvania is famous for? That's right, D2 Custom Guns, the home of Dan Heizenreiter and one of the best, fabulous 2011 builders in the country. So make sure you guys go check him out, D2 Custom, anywhere you can see him on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, go check him out. If you see myself, Patches Reader, anyone with the D2 Custom Guns, make sure you go check him out, and you will thank me later. Now, let's get on to the show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet, because that's how we do it, via the internet, because that's how we roll. We're going to talk to a man who is from Minnesota, but who's a nerd, and by other people's definitions. We're talking to Ben Egelston. How you doing, Ben?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I am a nerd, a little bit of a nerd. At least I have a nerdy background, but it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you. I blame Timmy for this, because he's like, send me your link so I can give this to Ben so he can deal with this.
Yes, he's been pressuring me for the longest time to finally get on a podcast and put myself out there more and do some more self-promotion. And if you look at my social media feed, you can see that it's pretty barren. And that's just, I don't know. I don't find posting social media stuff very fun. But you know, it is what it is, and I know it's how you got to get the views. So,
you just need a social media manager, aka Tanfo Timmy.
You know, he's the meme machine, so he would be a perfect candidate. So you're right. I should just give him full control over my socials and send him all my videos, and he'll just be acting on behalf of myself.
Right. just sliding them DMs, everybody.
That's right.
That's good. But no, for people who don't know you, a lot of people don't. Like, I met you at Kentucky this year, so that was cool, because you had a cheap-ass flight from Minnesota to Kentucky.
Yeah, it was great. Tim, back in February, was like, hey, want to go to this match in Kentucky? And I was like, it looks full. He's like, yeah, I got you, don't worry. And I was like, Tim, are you sure? We bought tickets. He's like, are you sure we're going to get in? He's like, don't worry, I got you. It was a great match.
It was. But so for the people who really don't know you, who are you and how'd you get into shooting?
All right. So my name is Ben, obviously. I got into shooting because I saw a post on Facebook for my local gun range, Stock and Barrel, here in Chanhassen, Minnesota. And it was a beginner's welcome to competition league, competition shooting night, pistol, whatever. And this was back at the end of 2021, and I found a deal on Reddit for ammo. So I got 500 rounds, and I hadn't shot a handgun in like 2 years up to that point. So I call the range. I'm like, hey, can I come to this? And they're like, yeah, sure, come on out. Like, beginner's welcome, no experience needed. And I show up with my little FNS 9C that I have no holster for. I have like 2 mags for. And I get there really excited, and people are walking around with belts, rigs, open guns, you name it, just whatever you see at regular matches. And I was like, this isn't beginner people. It's like, what the heck is this? I was expecting concealment, and just kind of, I really had no frame of reference for what even USPSA was at that point. I thought 3-gun was it. Like, in the back of my mind, I thought 3-gun was kind of the pinnacle of shooting. I'd never seen specifically handgun. And anyway, so if people are familiar with 3-gun, there's a kid named Logan Toland. He did a lot of 3-gun. He doesn't shoot as much anymore, but he saw me and he's like, hey, you want to shoot my stuff? I see you look kind of lost. And so I've got a picture of myself wearing his rig, which doesn't fit me because he was like 16 at the time and really skinny, and his belt fit above my waist. Anyway, so I got to shoot his Walther Q5 steel frame, and it was the coolest thing ever. So that was like October of 2021. And from that point, I was immediately hooked. And I had no reason to buy a Shadow 2, but like a month later, I bought one. And I was in. I was like, this is it. I need to do this. This is so much fun. And so I just kept going to the Winter League. And so I got a Shadow 2. And come April of 2022, I had sent it to Primary Machine to get it milled for a dot and Cerakoted, and I was like making a Gucci Shadow 2, and which I've since sold. I've moved on to the stock 2s. They're primo. But anyways, so I shot my first outdoor match in 2022, and I mean even then, like, I don't know, it's just been downhill from there. So it's been a lot of fun.
That is pretty exciting. It's kind of interesting. You go from a very small FN to a Shadow 2 to now a stock 2. Now, blink twice for the video list watchers if Tanfo Timmy is holding a gun to your saying about stock 2s.
Hey, Tim, they're on to us.
No, they are pretty cool guns. I will say that. I've had a couple friends who have them, and they're like, this is pretty nice.
I mean, I really like the Shadow 2, obviously. Even before like I knew anything about competition shooting, Shadow 2s were something that I had like held in a gun case or like held from a gun store, and I was like, I don't even know what this is. This is so cool. Like, it's the low bore axis, the paint job. Oh my gosh, everything about it. And and then when I learned about USPSA, I'm like, I need a Shadow 2. I have a reason. So that $1,200 price tag, like, I was like, whatever. I don't care. I'm biting the bullet. Figure, like, whatever, literally and figuratively, and jumped straight to the gun that I wanted. And I think that, I mean, that doesn't hurt. Maybe it does, because again, I really had no pistol experience before I got into USPSA. Sure, I had a carry gun, but I think I had 500 rounds over the course of maybe 2 years with that thing, and that was my first handgun. So, anyways, so I had seen people like Jerry Michalek shoot online and stuff, and I'm like, man, that's so cool. I want to do that someday. And anyways, so that was my gateway, is my local range.
Gotcha. So that's pretty cool. So how soon into shooting USPSA did you meet Tim?
Well, Tim, I actually met Tim at the local Stock and Barrel gun club over the winter, because he would drive down. He's further north by like 40 minutes, but he would come down and he would help run and RO whatever needed to be done at the indoor matches. Tim is just an all-around great guy and wants to volunteer and promote the sport. So I got to meet him through that. So after my first time shooting indoors, I came back to the next one 2 weeks later, because it was every other week, and I got to borrow a Shadow 2, and because I saw a lot of Shadow 2s around, and I knew I wanted to get one. So I was like, hey, can I borrow your stuff? Like, not knowing that the gun community was actually really friendly and very, very helpful. Well, I should have known that, because a kid popped out of the woodwork, Logan, and he let me use his stuff first night. So I knew that the community was very willing to let you use their stuff. So I got to shoot a Shadow 2, and there was a hosey stage, and not having any frame of reference, I was just like, I saw people going fast. I'm like, I want to do that. So I borrowed the Shadow 2, ripped down a stage, and Tim's like, this is your second time? We're like, this is your first time ever shooting? And so from that point on, I showed a lot of interest, and he saw a lot of potential in me right away. And Tim being just, a great mentor, he saw the potential, and I stuck with it. So.
Gotcha. And that's pretty cool. And that's all this community is about, is the camaraderie and the helpfulness between each other.
Yeah.
So what classification did you come in after you kind of got your gear squared away?
So I didn't classify for, I think it was the first year. I think so, from 2022, when I shot my first outdoor match, and then the following March, so 2022, then you jumped to 2023 March. I classified, I'm pretty sure is there a classification record? I could look it up, not now, but later. But I think it was March of 2023. I classified as M. We had an all classifier match at our local indoor range because it was the dead of winter. Thanks, Minnesota. And yeah, I came in right at M. It was like 85 or 86%, and I was pretty stoked about that just because I thought I would get A class, and then I didn't, Anyway, so came in at M right out of the gate, and I've been there ever since, getting called a sandbagger.
Right. Well, so you shot into M. Now, was that pure luck, or did you then become getting kick stomped by masters at matches as soon as the outdoor season hit?
No, it actually stuck, and like I felt like maybe I didn't shoot the classifiers great, right? Like I said, I came right in at the 85-86% mark, so I barely scraped into M through classifiers, and I just am not a fan of classifiers because I think you can practice them and you can kind of cheat the system in a way. Not saying that everybody's doing that, but at the time, it just wasn't interesting to me to shoot classifiers. I wanted to shoot matches. And so getting that initial classification was exciting, but I knew I had to go back it up at matches. And when the outdoor season hit, I was winning, first M at the locals that I shot. So Great Plains, Cornhusker, and I think those were, and then Iowa. Those were the ones that I traveled to that year in 2023. And then I won high M at nationals as well in 2023. And that was my first nationals. So, and that was, I think, my let me think. So there was the Minnesota section, the Iowa. I think that was maybe my fourth or fifth major was Chiroptics Nationals. So I thankfully had the skills to back up my M class status, which feels good,
Yeah, which is nice. Well, the nice thing up there, kind of where you're in Minnesota, is you do have heat, right? Like you got Tim, you got Casey Reed, you got Luke Faust, you've got who's the other fast guy? Doesn't Nick live up there too?
Nick Dahlberg?
No,
or
Walden? Isn't he? Or is he from somewhere else in the Area 3?
Nick's from North Dakota, unfortunately. But and then
North Dakota.
Lane Grease, he's from, I think Lane's from, is it Iowa or Nebraska? He's like on the border. And but so there's a lot of heat in the area that I always bump into at these matches at majors. So it's nice to be able to go toe to toe with them every season. And that's why also it was great to get out to Kentucky, is because I got a whole new set of the heat out there as well.
Oh, absolutely. So have you taken a class yet?
Yeah, so I took a Ben Steger class the first year, so 2022. That August of 2022, there was a Ben and Joel class up at Forest Lake, and that was the intro to pistol fundamentals, or I forget the exact name, but it was the intro class to that with Ben and Joel, and we shot about 1,200 rounds, 2-day class. And at the time, like even though I had been shooting it like for a few months, I didn't know what quite to expect or how to take that information and turn it into something productive. And so since then, this past spring, back in April, I took another Ben class, but this was the advanced class this time. And now that I have, had a 2022, 2023, and then some of 2024 to kind of understand, and a lot of dry fire, and like so much time and effort's gone into getting to where I now know how to take that information and turn it to something productive. And so
that's pretty cool. So how much do you think your training is split up between live and dry?
So I don't have direct access to an outdoor range, so I do a lot of my shooting an indoor range, the one that I actually got to USPSA, stock and barrel. So that is where I spend most of my time. And before, so this season, it felt like I kind of got a late start with, I guess, live fire, because I had a late season last year. I shot IPSC Nationals, and that was back in November. And I just didn't feel like I gave myself enough time to kind of chill out and relax. So I slacked off a little bit in the off season, right? At least in Minnesota, we have an outdoor off season, so you don't feel the pressure of going to outdoor matches. We still do the indoor stuff, but it's like getting together with some friends, like a bowling league. I know, it's pretty relaxed. But I will go live fire once a week at least, kind of in off season, and then I was going 3 to 4 times a week leading up to nationals, and only shooting probably about 150 to 200 rounds at a time. And that amount of live fire doesn't last super long, maybe for like a period of a month or a month and a half, and then I'll do a lot of dry fire as well. So like sprinkled into all of that is dry fire, where I'm dry firing 2 to 3 times a week, and usually for 30 to 45 minutes at a time. I don't like to do the short stuff. Like if I do the short stuff, it's fine. I would rather have a shorter live fire session and a longer dry fire session. I can burn through ammo pretty quick at live fire. So
I just wish they made like a little robot ammo that will just load your mags for you.
that would be great. That would be great.
That's the one thing I hate about going to practice. It's like, oh, I unloaded all these magazines. Now I have to reload them.
Yeah, and that's what I'll do too. Like I'll load before I go to the range. I'll fill my little mag sleeve. I'll load my six mags or 8 mags, and then I'll shoot those. Maybe I'll bring 100 extra just in case I'm like really feeling it and I want to run through one more drill. And that's what I limit myself to. And then I do that multiple times rather than trying to cram it all into one session. If I had outdoor range access, I mean, everything is about an hour away from me, if not a little further. And on weeknights, I can get even longer because of traffic, because I got to travel through the city, get out of the city. But anyways, not to jump too far off, but
You're all good. So you've been last 2 nationals. You've been top M, correct?
yeah, and that's why I was getting called a sandbagger this year.
So, is the goal to become GM, or just win master all the time?
So my goal to get GM was to do it by way of level 2.
Mm-hmm.
And with Area 3 not doing a lot of USPSA matches, which I'm totally fine with, shooting hit factor, that just threw things off of my plan of going to matches and shooting 95% above and getting GM that way. Like I was saying earlier, I just don't find classifiers that interesting, especially some of the newer ones. I've seen a lot of the new classifiers be pretty soft, and sure, they're more stage-like or stage-esque. I would rather just put my skills up against, the best shooters and see where I land percentage-wise. I think that's a much better representation of skill, and being someone who's pretty competitive. Again, like I have a background in esports, I like to be competitive that way, and I always want to make sure I'm measured up against the best. And I don't know if classifiers are the best way to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't disagree with you, because I do feel that some of the new ones are pretty, as you say, soft. It's like, who can't hundo or GM 2301 and 2302?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, is like the 23s that I see a lot of videos about. And I'm like, sure, I could go do a classifier class or match and get GM, but it would be pretty unsatisfying. Like, I've made it this far into my shooting career, and I'm still M, sure, but I'm not 95%ing at nationals. So does that beg the question, should I still be an M? I'm not, sure, I'm getting higher than 95% at other locals or other level 2s, but where does it fall off, right? Like, should I be gauging myself up against the best, or just the best of the people that show up to matches? And so I haven't quite answered that for myself yet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, still top 20 at nationals is still very impressive.
thank you. Yeah, it was, especially against Griffell, I was pretty happy with. Like last year, I took 19th, and sure, my number didn't increase. It actually went down one position, but Griffell showed up, and so did Edsel and Martin, and they definitely compressed the scores for everybody. And anyway, so percentage-wise, I'm happy. It's an improvement, especially if you remove those guys. I think I would have been about a 94% over the 89% that I was last year. So,
Well, yeah, and it's this field is so stacked when you can have over 500 people in this match.
yeah.
Like everyone shot this match.
That's what I was saying last year too. Like last year was the heat, like a big match, because everyone shot the match, and then this year again. So what's next year going to bring? Is like all of Team CC going to show up? Who's going to show up next year? I don't know. It's going to be exciting. I hope, and with rumors of it being maybe not at Cardinal next year. Maybe it's going to be a big one nationals held. I don't know how they're going to do that. I've heard of like the 9 days of nationals in the past, and maybe we'll see something like that again. So, no idea.
Yeah. At this point, I still think that Carry Optics needs to have its own standalone nationals because you can fill out the match with 500 plus people and let everyone duke it out.
I agree.
Now, if every other nationals was combined, I'd be okay with that.
Maybe that's what they'll do. Do you have any insight?
No, that's just me spitballing because you dilute everyone out of Carry. Like that's the cool thing about Carry Optics Nationals is everyone's shooting it, so you really can see where you stack. But if you put Carry Optics with anything else, you're going to pull like Nils and Mason and other people away from Carry Optics.
Yep.
So you're not seeing truly how everyone stacks against each other.
True. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I had just figured that they would probably still shoot Carry Optics if it was all one nationals. But
then the problem is also you're like, how do you fill the match without it being so? If it's one whole nationals, how many of those people are shooting Carry Optics at that point still too? And
how do you make the stages interesting for every division, right? Mm-hmm. And because I heard complaints about handgun nationals last year being a lot harder than it should have been. Then, because I guess limited optics was included in that, and maybe that's where the difficulty came in, because we're like, oh, we got to balance it for dots now. No idea, and I'm glad I don't have to think about those problems.
Right, 100%. I don't blame you there, but yeah. And that's kind of the cool thing, right? Because like Area 3 is shooting more hit factor, right?
Yep.
So you've shot what, Cornhusker and probably Great Plains this year?
Yep. And then I shot Tim's match earlier, which was the Northwood Showdown, which had cash prizes. Everybody come out to that next year, 2025 Northwood Showdown. I believe it's going to be greater, bigger, and better. So
just tell Tim to not put it on the same weekend. I'm busy.
All right. Well, hey, you got to coordinate with Tim. All right. Maybe we'll come up with like a Calendly or something like that, and everyone can. Whatever.
Put all dates in. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That was the worst part because it was the Northwood Showdown was the same weekend as the Buckeye Blast this year, and I was like, "Darn it, Tim."
Okay. Yeah. I mean, with so many matches across the country, you really have to be selective with your time, don't you? But it would be fun to get out and shoot the Buckeye match, and there's a few matches that are around the country that would be really interesting, like that all steel one out west. What's that called?
It's like Heading shoots it all the time. I think the Colorado Action Steel or the Rock.
No. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's the Action Steel match.
It's like USPSA stages, but it's only with steel, right? That's what I'm thinking of. And
yeah, there's one like that, and then there's one that's called the Rocky Mountain 300, where like all the stages are like 60 rounds.
I think that's what I'm thinking of. Anyways, one of those would be a lot of fun to shoot because steel is already punishing, but to shoot that much steel would be good practice and just a lot of fun. So,
yeah, that would be fun. It would not be disappointing. So, you went down to Kentucky with Tim on a cheap date.
That's right. We went to Buc-ee's too.
You lucky
First stop.
So, what did you think of the whole match?
Man, getting in. Well, the range itself was interesting. The roads in Kentucky are a lot narrower than anything around here. So Tim and I were kind of a little like, oh, are we gonna die? But besides that, I thought the match was a lot of fun, and I have to say I really like having a warm-up bay before being able to shoot. And luckily, our first stage of the day was right across from the warm-up bay, so I could just go shoot a little bit, walk over to our squad, and get ready. But I just like going to other ranges and shooting. Really, it's like I thought all the stages were fun. I had no complaints about the stages. I thought they were unique. I thought they were interesting. And I compare going to new ranges like going to like a gym in Pokemon. It's like you get to go over to this state's gym over here and like battle against their trainers, and that's my just what I associate it with.
All right, pause real quick. All right, what generation of Pokemon was the best?
Ah, man. I mean, okay, I make that analogy, but I wasn't the biggest Pokemon player. I think I grew up with Game Boy Color and like Game Boy SP or Advanced SP or whatever. I played like Leaf Green, like Red and Yellow, the old cartridges, and I still have some of the original cartridges from the good old days, like Yellow and Red and Blue. How about you? What was yours?
Ooh, so mine happens to be a remake. So
okay,
that would definitely be Soul Silver. So that was the remake of the original Silver game. And that I think the original game was on Game Boy. No, yes, it's on the Game Boy Color.
The OG, Game Boy Color. Okay,
yeah. I mean, you could play it in the old OG game, but in the old, because it's the same thing. I just added the color art, red, blue, green.
Yeah,
but it was pretty fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, Pokemon had a resurgence back in high school, which I thought was hilarious, but that's another story.
Oh, dude, when I got out of high school, it was all about Pokemon Go.
Oh, man. I didn't have a smartphone at that point, so I just followed my friends around and was like, is the game fun? And this wasn't even that long ago. But
the trick was you just got on your bicycle and you had a bicycle mount and just rode around and hatched all your eggs.
The parks that got filled around here because of Pokemon Go, just like, oh, that's a gaggle of people over there. Oh, they're all playing Pokemon Go. They're not doing drugs. Maybe it's a different kind of drug.
Exactly. So you say that every new ranger match is like a Pokemon gym. So
yeah.
I will say the warm-up bay is nice. I just wish it was at a different spot.
Yeah, I mean, from the map, obviously you get the map and you can see where it is, and it was kind of in the middle of stuff. Maybe is that traditionally used for another bay? That's a pretty small area.
No, it's always the warm-up bay, but it's more annoying when you are the stage that's right behind in front of it, and you're just like, oh great, I get to hear this in the morning, and no one's like, hey, I'm gonna go hot. It's no,
yeah,
and I'm like, thanks guys.
Yeah, I forgot you were on Bay 2, right?
Yep. Last year I was on Bay 1 though, so I was just like, oh, okay. Fun.
So you can't escape it. Maybe next year you'll get sent to like 9, the big bay.
No, I do not want to go down that hill. Where
Joey Sauerland was sprinting in the Kentucky heat in pants. I was like,
no, that was a miserable hot time. That was rough.
Yeah, I was kind of under the weather for that match too. I wasn't feeling 100%. I was surviving off of Airborne. Well, yeah. What was it? Yeah, Airborne and Emergency and some cough drops and blowing my nose and liquid IV. That was my experience out in the Kentucky heat. But I thought the stages were a lot of fun. What do you think of the stages? Anything you would change or being the RO?
Thank you for watching another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, go check out our sponsors when you are available. We've got D2 Custom Guns, Hunter's HD Gold, Go Fast Don't Suck, Outdoor Dynamics, Make Stuff Better, 2 Alpha Apparel, RangePanda.com, Summit City Bullets, Laugh and Load, Southern Bobby Q, and the Tom Castro Shooting Academy. Now let's get back to this awesome episode. Other than like some of the middle start stages, I would change some of those.
Sure. Which you RO'd on, which was the middle start stage with the unloaded start.
Yeah, but at least you had something to do.
Like you could run left or right, or...
Well, you still had to load the gun, though, too, which was nice. So it's not like one of those, I have nothing to do. It's kind of like stage 10, right? You started loaded, in the middle, you're like, where am I going to do?
Yeah.
The likelihood of me DQing because of a drawing with my holster up range is pretty likely.
It happened to someone on our squad, unfortunately, and that was a bummer. So I see what you mean. I guess it kind of felt nationally in a way where there's a lot of start stick. Mm-hmm. Like start sticks are very popular at nationals. Even last year it felt like that. But usually they're not placed in a place where you're going to drop range. So you're usually at the back of the stage.
Right. Like I remember, I don't know if it was 2022 or 2023 Minnesota sectional. There was one RO who kept calling drawing up range, right?
Yeah, that was actually the first year I started shooting. That was my first year at the Minnesota section. That was 2022, and I'm friends with the person who who that happened to. At least the one. Yeah. Anyways,
but and then there's a video of Tim like, I know how to draw without pointing my holster up range, guys. Like, just learn to draw really good.
Yeah,
which
Tim
is not
drilled
wrong.
That into my head. Yeah, Tim drilled that into my head early on, and it still goes through my head. Tim's words of, "Well, you can't win a match if you're DQ'd." It's like, all right, you know what? Maybe that's a good point. Maybe I'll take the quarter of a second that it takes to draw my gun, then turn. And if you make that mistake, you're not going to make it again. Hopefully, right? If
right, and there's no major advantage of being that close to the 180 with your holster. Like,
yeah, that's exactly. Like I don't try to toe the line anymore. Maybe I'll catch myself doing it sometimes, but most of the time it really, again, Tim's words, don't DQ, or this is a dumb way to DQ. So,
right. So in my opinion, I would have changed a couple of those, start in the middles or the start retreating kind of stages.
Yeah.
Like, I think the stage I rode on, anything out completely outside would have been fine. So you could start it. If you want to start in the front, go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that. Some variety rather than, well, I think I saw Brantley's video. He unloaded, or he ran to the right and then he stopped back in the middle. I just took the stuff from the middle and then went right and then went left. And that was mostly just because I could have I went right then left, and you're running with your gun out to the right, downrange, rather than having it like up and across your body like this. Like, so.
Yeah, there was high potential for disqualification on that stage for doing that.
Yeah. So, at least, yeah, I can see that.
I mean, yeah, Brantley had the best time, but he lost the stage to Trace, who had better hits in about over a second slower.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you get to go to these other gyms, these other ranges, and you get to go up against the other heat that shows up to those matches, and you never know where you're going to stack up. And so my goal for the match was just to show up and shoot and see where I land. And where I landed was second place, which I was happy with. I had a mistake on stage 10 where I was trying to fall out on a tuxedo and threw an alpha mic into the hardcover, stumbled back into the fault line, shot a close, it was like it was touching the perf, but I thought I missed it again. So I went back and then I stumbled forward. And so it cost me like 4 seconds. And, the what ifs, right? The what ifs in practice score relay, they keep you up at night. So it's like, if that mistake didn't happen, then I think I would have secured first place. So, I mean, so anyways, but those guys are fast. Brantley's fast. Trace Decker, I don't think I've ever met him in person, but I see the scores, and obviously he plays well at nationals too. And they're just fast, like all speed, and it's impressive. So
yeah, well, and then you look at like Jacob Hetherington, who puts more speed on everybody. Like, it's insane how fast he's going through these stages.
Yeah, what did he shoot nationals in this year? Was it like under 300?
Yeah, he had the fastest raw time, so he had 297.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess a lot of my time from nationals came from makeup shots, because there was a lot of far partials that I was not comfortable with. And I mean, you see my penalties. I think I had 2 misses and 3 no shoots throughout the whole match, and a lot of that comes from just not having the time shooting those difficult targets. And I'll say not having outdoor range access readily available kind of contributes to that. I can only do 25 yards at my indoor range, which I do. And if I could push it out to 35 yards and do 3 of those, that'd be valuable, super valuable. So I'm going to work on getting some outdoor range access around here. I've got some through Tim. I can go shoot with him and some others like Luke Faust. Like he's a member at a range. We got a few outdoor ranges. So anyways.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if you had to pick your favorite stage from Nationals, which one would it have been?
I've asked this question to other people, and I haven't come up with an answer myself, but I'll try here. Okay, actually, I think it was the two stages that I shot the worst, which really sucks. I think one of the most interesting stages, or just fun stages to shoot, was, I think it was stage 4. Let me pull up the scores quick. And it was stage 4, Our Lady Eagle 1. It's the one where you start with your heels touching against the left fault line. You run forward, you shoot the far, like kind of right open target, and then you have the option to shoot a partial hard cover to the left, and then you shoot the big steel across, and then you go back to the left where you started, and then you shoot a paper activator bobber, and then you shoot a steel, and then another partial kind of a hardcover target, and then you do your reload, then you run over, you hit a steel, you can either take a paper, and then you go straight to a port, and then you can take paper, and if you've taken the paper from where you took the steel, then you're done. Otherwise, you can take the paper from that was the first stage of day 2, which was our AM, and being making excuses here, being from Minnesota, where we lose an hour, so that was earlier, body clock wise. So I just feel like I'm extra groggy in the morning, and I didn't go to the warm up range, and if you have the option to go to warm up range, I don't know why you wouldn't take it. So that's a lesson for myself. Like, you don't see basketball players hopping onto the court first thing out of the locker room. They're warming up for a good portion of time beforehand, and I don't know why we wouldn't do the same as competitive shooters. I know there's cold start, and some people don't like to shoot beforehand, and I don't really know why people have that opinion. Like, if I could put 100 rounds down range before I get to shoot, then great, because I feel like I warm up into my matches. Because at the end of day 2, that was stage 3, which was a really fun stage where you start at the front, you blast 4 targets, then you run to the back left, and then you rip a paper, 2 steel, and a paper, and then you do your reload, and you kind of pull yourself around these walls, and then you kind of get deep, and then you shoot, and then you go back and you pull yourself around another wall. I actually thought that was one of the most fun stages. So anyways, good stages. I like Nationals this year. I thought it was fun. And the IPSC challenge too actually didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. So with all IPSC targets.
Yeah, the IPSC targets are interesting because everyone's like, oh no, we shoot USPSA, we shouldn't shoot IPSC targets. But they're more rewarding but also punishing when you decide to shoot Charlies. Yeah,
exactly. And I think after I've given it some thought, I guess I don't really care as much anymore that it was all IPSC, but I at first was like, all right, they're kind of catering it to Graffel, but I had heard that decision was made well before Graffel even decided to shoot. I think that's what it was. So it just felt a little fishy with the shaky bridge and the prone position. Very European, huh?
Yeah, well, it had pickleball. I mean, everyone loves pickleball.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, pickleball and prone, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting stage due to the fact that you had to lay down and it was raining.
That was my first prone stage I've ever shot. I had never shot prone before. With the guys I was staying with. I stayed with Nick Walden, Martin Smith, and Carter Martell. They're from North Dakota. They drove there 21 hours or whatever. It's ridiculous. But shout out to them for letting me ride with them while there. I didn't have to get a rental car. But we went to Dick's Sporting Goods the night before because I'm like, I think I might want to maybe get like some elbow pads or whatever. And we're like, whatever. It's the second to the last stage of day 3. And sure enough, like my elbow got pretty chewed up and my knee got chewed up, but you know, whatever.
Yeah. At least you weren't like doing a prone stage like in the actual dirt.
Yeah. Have you done that?
Yeah. I mean, they all suck. Especially having to get back up.
Well, yeah, okay, that was the nice thing is you didn't go prone, then have to get back up and shoot more. And what the interesting thing, I saw a lot of because I watched the European guy, or Griffel and his squad shoot that stage, and I actually recorded Griffel shooting that along with Edsel, and they, at the end of it, they set their gun down. They actually set their gun down, like they put their safety on and they set their gun down, then they got up and then did their unload and show clear. Just thought that was an interesting thing. Maybe very European, very safe, and just different IPSC style. But you know, I just did the unload and show clear from the ground, or I think I kneeled up and did that, and I didn't have any issues with that. So I didn't have any concern about ending into the wall. So yeah.
So competitors were allowed to set their gun down on the deck. Was that
yeah? I asked. I was like, "Hey, I saw the European guys doing this the other day. Is this something we can do?" And they're like, "Yes. Like with approval, you know, you can do this. You'll have to make sure your gun has a safety and make sure the safety's on when you set it down." I think that, yeah.
Okay, so they got special accommodation. So they decided that like that it was allowed. Okay, because normally you setting your gun down somewhere else on the safe tables, you go home.
That's what I saw. I was like, what is this? I've never seen this before. And that's why I had to ask when we were on the stage there. So I was like, maybe I can get Griffel DQ'd. No, not really, but you know.
God, just think about that. That'd be the end of the world for someone's ROing career.
Yeah, right. You throw a baguette at them.
So right before they got to shoot, they got delayed. That squad got delayed for lightning. And we were standing there watching and waiting because we had a couple of friends on. We had good-looking Eric was our friend on the squad.
Good-looking Eric.
Yeah, or pretty Eric or handsome Eric. So Steiner was on the squad.
Okay.
So, which was funny because there's French Eric and like handsome Eric.
Oh, okay.
But anywho, my buddy and I were standing there, kind of eating our lunch, watching and waiting. And Griffel walks up with 10 bottles of Pro Grip.
What?
Yeah, like he just bought 10 bottles off of Leif. And he's like,
does he use it?
Oh yeah, him and Robin use it, but the problem is that he can't get it overseas. So
what do you mean? What?
Yeah, it can't be shipped there because of what's in it.
It's probably got cancerous stuff in it, right?
I mean, well, it's not from California, so
yeah.
But so my buddy who was with me, Ken, had no idea who he was talking to, and he's like, "You must go through a lot of that then if you bought that much." And then he explained,
if you knew.
Only if you knew, brother. So then after he got done spewing off to Eric, I was like, "So how was the flight?" He's like, "Man, it was exhausting. We had one day at home between Extreme Euro and coming here." And I'm like, "Oof."
Yeah, I saw him posting about that Extreme Euro, and I was like, "What?" Like, and the jet lag. So one day, that's crazy. And then he comes over here and kicks everyone's butt. So I guess that's what you get when you shoot as much as he does and does it for a living and has been doing it for decades. It's cool to have somebody like that in the sport and to chase. So
9-time world champion.
I know, and I feel bad if the rumors are true that Sailor had dot issues, because you could tell that he was very frustrated and just had awards when he was when they were doing the top 10. So you know, you felt bad. It sucked.
Yeah, it definitely does suck when that happens, especially when it's like it's kind of out of your control, but in your control kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of sponsorship deal he has. I think he shoots a Romeo 3XL or the big window one, and the people that I've heard shoot them, I'm surprised he hasn't run into issues any sooner at matches, to be honest. So
Well, and the problem also could be is the fact that they could be good until like they're great, and then they just decide to crap out a national.
Yeah. Talk about timing. So
speaking of that, do you run like a hollow sun or an SRO on your stock twos?
Yeah, so I run SROs. I think that's probably what I'll run. I have a 507 comp that now that the season is kind of over for me, like I've got a few matches throughout to go, like locals, and I've got Iowa, and there's a Wisconsin PCSL one gun match that I'm going to be shooting. Those are both in September. And then Tim has a not Minnesota section match that I haven't registered for yet, but that I'll think I'm going to put the 507 comp back on, because when I was running it for a little while, I liked it, but I was having trouble with screws. And not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but the screws that come with the dot are different than what you can buy anyways. So I got some from McMaster that I think will work. So.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So now that you said your season's kind of over, are you going to shoot LO or are you going to continue in CO?
I have a irons stock 2 extreme stock 2. So just like the upgraded one out of the box from Tanfo. But that's only irons. I was going to get it milled, but I'm glad I didn't, because I actually won a stock 2 cert from Nationals, which is perfect because my backup gun slide is cracked. So, which I discovered I'd been shooting with it like that for a while, and I don't know when that was going to break. So I brought it to Nationals just to have a backup. But now that I have a stock 2 cert, I'm going to get that redeemed. And then I think I'm going to do some production stuff. I've really never shot irons besides when I had my Shadow 2, 2.5 years ago. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's kind of in right now. A lot of people, like I've seen Lane Grease, he's been shooting some irons. I've got some other buddies down in Louisiana shooting irons, and it's retro. So it's going to be cool for a little bit, and then it's going to go out.
Yeah.
Until it's cool again.
Well, won't it be cool, right? So so you've been shooting some hit factor as well. So are you shooting enhanced optics or practical optics?
Yeah, enhanced optics. I didn't give much, like after IPSC Nationals, I really haven't shot any 15, like practical optics. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, practical optics. Yeah. I really like the 15 round limit. It just makes you think a little more, and it's just a different experience altogether. So on that topic, it would be cool to see IPSC come in and actually have more representation in matches as an alternative. But who would run those? I guess it would probably be local clubs, but I guess hit factor is a good alternative right now for that to be a thing. So I'm looking forward to maybe running some of that as well.
Yeah. Now, any chance or thought of running some rifle stuff?
Yes. I know Tim's been putting on a lot of 2-gun stuff around here, and I've been meaning to get out at least to a 2-gun or possibly a 3-gun. I shot trap in high school, so I've got some shotgun experience. And I mean, honestly, that's kind of what kickstarted a lot of getting into shooting, was shooting trap in high school. I hadn't really trap shot much, and my buddy was like, hey, there's trap shooting and let's go do it. I signed up for it, got in. He forgot to sign up, so I just did it solo. I was like, thanks, man. He totally forgot about it, and I'm on the team now. All right. But I ended up taking 3rd at state. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm kind of good at this kind of thing. And so then, went to college, kind of forgot about shooting. And then I'm like, all right, when I get a real job, then I'll get back into the shooting world. And this just happened to be the perfect gateway to get back into it. So anyways, long story short, the reason I want to shoot some 3-gun is because I started with shotgun. Shotgun's a lot of fun. I heard rifles even more fun though. So at least 2-gun PCSL is a thing. And Tim's running some matches. So
yeah. Are you going to shoot multi-gun nationals this weekend?
No, I don't have any intention on doing that. Right now I'm still kind of like chilling on my off season, just like kicking back, like, no pressure.
I mean,
it feels good.
It could be like Tim, who's just going to be like, I'm going to have a retard moment and be like shooting everything.
Oh man, yeah. I have thought about it. Maybe I'll pop up there and go check it out for a while and say hey to Tim and all the guys staffing it, because the local team and the local staffing scene, they're great. And honestly, all of my progression, I just am so grateful to have people like Tim and the MAPSA staff, which is Metro Area Practical Shooting Association. That's our Forest Lake club, and all of those guys who help run it, so great. And all of the local clubs around here putting on matches have helped me get the experience I need to shoot. So I just, it's great to have a great scene up here. And I know a lot of states don't have that kind of ability to go to a match nearly every night of the week during the summer. It's been great. And I don't shoot a lot of weeknight matches, but just having the ability to do that is something I don't think you can find many places unless you're like in Arizona, where the scene is exploding, it seems. So
Yeah, it's not very common where you can just shoot like on the weekends or on the weekdays, because it's just not how it is.
Exactly. So
So I did get some listener questions. One guy wants to know, what do you think has been crucial for helping you become master so fast?
So my cousins and my family kind of joke about this is where the esports background comes in, and maybe this is the answer that you don't want to hear, but it's like there's definitely a level of natural talent that comes with my ability to progress so fast. And I've always been interested in shooting like BB guns or airsoft guns, and being someone who I grew up behind a controller playing Halo and like N60, like 007, GoldenEye on the N64, and just the classics. So
Right.
I've, from a very young age, been doing video games and high speed, like very competitive games, and so I think that contributes to it as well. Just having kind of that inherent knack for hand-eye coordination and just putting these concepts together that I've been slowly developing, and then being able to implement them into shooting. You don't have to be that. Like you look at like Rafael, I doubt he played games. I don't know what his background is, but that's kind of my cheat code, because I really don't know if I have a solid answer, but behind that as well as a lot of interest. Like this is something that, like pure obsession, it became like every match I went to, I was always chasing somebody. If you're not shooting with people who are better than you, or at least trying to squad with people that are better than you, or afraid of squatting with people that are better than you, then I think, like, sure, you can be intimidated, right? It's always intimidating to be squatted with people who are better than you. Even I am like, oh my gosh, that's like, oh, so-and-so. It's like, wow, I can't believe I'm squatting with them. I remember the first time I squatted with Casey Reed, it was like one of the worst matches I shot. It's like, oh my goodness, they're so good. But then you start developing your skills because you're chasing them and you're observing what they're doing. And what they do isn't something that is impossible. You just need to be honest with yourself and really critical but analytical. Tim, again, Tim's been a great mentor, so I always reference Tim. Like he's been my coach and someone I can always go to for questions. So he always says, analyze, don't criticize, which is a good reminder because it's easy to beat up on yourself. So if you find yourself criticizing yourself, try to pull it from the lens of how can I get better? Because if you're not having fun at the end of the day, getting better in this sport, then maybe it's not for you. I've had fun this entire time, and it's never felt like a chore, unless I've really let the season go on long, which kind of like last year, I was like, all right, I think I want to put the guns away for a little bit. Well, actually, last year after Carrier Optics Nationals, I shot Area 3, and that was the first match I didn't want to be there, which was a very strange feeling because every match, like every weekend, I had been thinking about shooting, wanted to shoot. So having that feeling of not wanting to shoot was very strange and foreign. But that's another reminder, you need to take a break. So if you're feeling yourself burnt out, take a break. It's good. It's good for you, because then you'll come back and you'll want to continue to progress. But again, being honest with yourself in dry fire, make sure you're live firing the correct things. I would recommend taking a class, even though they're expensive. It's like, wow, I could spend that ammo on 500, or I could spend $500 on ammo instead. You will get a different perspective. You'll get honest feedback. Hopefully, depending on who you're taking. So I have done a lot to try to get feedback and try to improve as fast as possible, and really, it's been a fun journey. So dry firing, just kind of doing all the same thing, but making sure you're not slacking off and being honest. So.
So you mentioned, like Halo. So do you remember LAN parties?
Oh man, I still do them. Yeah, when I was a kid, we had 4 original Xboxes where we would get my brother's friends over and whoever else wanted to come over, my friends and my brother's friends, and we would hook up 4 Xboxes. Then you would have 4 big TVs. You'd put them in the basement, and then you'd like put sheets up so you can't screen peek and all of that. And you'd sit across from each other or whatever. And yeah, good times.
Those were good times. And it was always a hoot when you're like I remember, because it was like Halo 3 was like the big thing back when we were doing this.
Oh yeah.
And we'd stay up all night, and we'd always get bitched out the next morning when we're all just sleeping on like the floor or like the couch, and it's just like. And then there's the one guy still in the corner playing online or something. I didn't go to sleep. I kept playing. And the parents were always judgy.
They just didn't get it.
Yeah.
Maybe my dad would have gotten it. My dad's a gamer too, so I love it. Yeah. He's a software developer, so I think that's probably where I get some of the nerdy side.
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good times. Now,
Absolutely.
So if you only could have one, is it either Halo or Call of Duty?
Ah, man, I think I gotta go Halo. I think Halo for me, it's just the story, the soundtrack, it's everything. It's just the chills. I don't think Call of Duty does that for me. Even though I loved, actually, it's funny. My dad, I would sit on my dad's lap and play. What was the original Call of Duty online? We're talking like Call of Duty 1, where it was Allies versus Axis, and it was kind of like a Battlefield online multiplayer experience where you could actually get in tanks and go capture flags and stuff. It was kind of advanced, I felt like, for Call of Duty. Anyways, even though I grew up with all those memories, I still feel like Halo takes the cake. There's just something about it. The excitement around it, the online multiplayer, just the red versus blue. Yeah, it's good.
Well, and I think it was the fact that I think it had a better single player games. They were better. I agree. They were better single players than they were than Call of Duty, because Call of Duty was like pretty much the same mission all the time. But
true, I've been meaning to get back and go replay the Master Chief Collection and go through all of the classics again, just 1 through 3, and then I love Reach. Reach is also a great game. I think, especially because of the Forge mode. Like I had a buddy who built all of these custom maps, and then you could also download the community maps. So when we get together, we'll still get together with like at least 12 guys. And now, of course, we're playing on PC, but we can still play with each other. And we get into a big room, and we're just playing custom games. It's a good time. So based on that alone.
Mint games right there.
I don't have that kind of memories with Call of Duty as I do Halo. So
I always remember people are like, I gotta no scope you. I'm like, I don't like playing with you.
Yeah, 360 no scope, interventions only.
Oh, yeah, or the worst part is like, we can only play on the Rust map. I'm like, this is horrible.
Rust 1v1,
Yeah. Oh, this time we're only gonna use knives. I'm like, oh great.
Oh, games.
It's sad. Like, I don't even own a console anymore.
I I've got my 360s around here somewhere, and then I've got an original Xbox One. But again, I'm a PC gamer these days. So, and I have been kind of since even for the longest time. My brother played World of Warcraft, and this is back in middle school, like elementary school, middle school. And I saw my brother playing WoW, and him and his friends playing WoW. I'm like, what is this world? It looks so cool. Little Ben.
But you think about it, and I think my first experience with World of Warcraft was like them playing it on South Park.
Yeah. The South Park episode goes down as a legendary episode.
Yeah.
So.
Mom, take a shit.
Bathroom. Yeah.
Oh, that's a big one, Eric.
Yeah.
Oh God. South Park, we need more of you in our lives.
I haven't seen many South Park episodes. Actually, I just watched one recently with the Japanese toilet, and it's like the bidet. Jeez. Yeah.
That's some good debauchery TV shows. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can maybe tolerate an episode. It's like Always Sunny. Once I watch an episode or two of that, I'm like, I gotta go take a shower. Like, jeez, man, these guys are degenerates.
I was not a big fan of Always Sunny, but it hits sometimes. I did like The Office more than It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, good show. Good show.
So I've got a couple more questions before we pinch this one off sometimes. So you mentioned, you have Tim, right? Like, as one of your mentors.
Yeah.
Do you have any other mentors that you'd say you would have?
Oh, man. I mean, maybe I would say just the material of Ben Steger. A lot of his stuff. Like, I got one of the first books that I got. Let's see, Dry Fire Reloaded. There we go. Yeah, Dry Fire Reloaded. This was what I used when I was just getting into shooting because I had no idea what I was doing, and I knew dry fire was important. So this book was perfect. It just gave me par times to push and just metrics because I, again, had no standard of time, and so everything felt fast. When I saw, 1 second reload, I was like, I'd never be able to do that. And I kind of video gamify shooting in a way where, like, you ever play Guitar Hero?
Oh yeah, I was just talking about that with the wife the other day.
Yeah, it's like Guitar Hero or Rock Band, right? You the first time I picked up Guitar Hero as a kid, and I started off on easy. It was like, you're still missing stuff and you're figuring out that coordination. It's like, ding, ding. Okay, you're getting it. And then you go to medium, and then it's like, wow, this is a little faster and a little more few more notes. And you go to hard, then you get the orange button introduced, like the, all 5 instead of just the 4. And anyway, so it's like, that's how I imagine kind of the progression of shooting skills, right? You're starting off just building a foundation, and hopefully that foundation isn't like I guess misguided, or you're putting your attention on the wrong stuff. So I was told to work on like draw and doing some reload stuff, but worry about the movement later. And so I started off easy. But anyways, that's what was the question again?
Mentors and whatnot.
Yeah, mentors. So Ben Steger. So that's the material that I found, and it was a good way to go from easy to hard, and easy to expert even. So yeah, I would say Tim's really been a great one, the best mentor I've had, and then Ben Steger again, just the material through them, and just the guys that I've surrounded myself with locally are all really good shooters and have been able to point me to good material, which has honestly been mostly Ben Steger stuff. So from now, one Ben to another.
Did you have Ben sign your book?
No, I didn't. maybe at some point.
He'd probably be like, why you want me to do that? My hand signature is not worth shit.
Maybe another day. But I hopefully wouldn't find that too cringy, or he wouldn't find that too cringy.
Yeah, you're from Minnesota. He'll forgive you.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's from Eau Claire or something like that in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Damn cheeseheads.
Yeah, that's right.
But so I like to ask this from a lot of different people. So, what is your make ready look like?
It follows. I guess it depends on how ready I actually am. So I know there's some days where there's some stages where I'm like, all right, I can go up, load, boom, ready to go. Others, my primary make ready is I take a few deep breaths. I, kind of calm myself, try to just take 10 seconds to do some breathing, and then look at every target. Boom, 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 boom. Look at the spot on the ground. Where am I going to move? Okay, where am I going to look at the target once I've hit that spot? And pretty much run through the entire stage and then load the gun, check the dot brightness, and then maybe I'll keep my hands above my waist, take a few more deep breaths, and then ready to go. I try to keep it pretty quick. I don't like excessively long make readies. I feel like mine's fine in terms of length. But usually I just try to do some last minute visualization, and I've been trying to, like, my pre make ready before I walk up to the line, I try to do more of a ghost gun kind of thing in the back, trying to lock that stage plan in. And I was trying to do some more of that at Nationals this year, which I felt like it was helping. And then some days or some stages I felt like it didn't matter as much. And I'll have to maybe observe why it worked better on some stages than others. So
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, and it's always cool to hear about everyone else's different how they go through about being ready. Because I agree. Sometimes people are really long-winded, myself included. Sometimes
I get it. It's just sometimes that's the way it is.
Yeah, I want to feel always prepared, but I also feel like sometimes you're not doing yourself any favors standing up there longer.
Yeah. And if it's really something I'm confused about or like didn't have a stage plan, then I just try not to worry too much. I'm like, all right, just go shoot, right? Just shoot the targets as you see them, which sounds terrible, but sometimes it's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. Just doing what you've been practicing.
True that. That's for sure. So Ben, if people actually want to talk to you and get a hold of you, what's the best way of doing that?
Best way is just reach out on Instagram. Honestly, if you shoot me a DM, I'll try to respond in a timely manner, and feel free to ask any questions. I have my match videos in my video description if you want to go check those out. Again, I don't post a whole lot on social media, on Instagram, but I'm going to try to change that. I have my Nationals video completely edited, and it's on my YouTube channel unlisted. I just have to actually make a post so I can be like, hey guys, I took so-and-so, I took 20th at Nationals, and I'm just slow to post. I think I'm maybe always worried about posting at the right time, and just got to post, as Tim says, because he's always blasting off memes.
You have to. You got to have the memes, right?
Yeah, I don't got the memes. He's got the meme magic.
Just tell him to make you a collaborator so all his posts show up on your feed.
I don't know if I want that.
Yeah, probably not. But bro, this has been a hoot. I really enjoyed this conversation, so I thank you for your time tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun to be on the show. And what I was going to say is when I first started shooting, your podcast was one of the first I was binging, because I was just trying to consume as much content. So it's an honor to be here to finally make it into the interviewee seat. So it's come full circle. Right.
So let's see. You'd got to be, I think this will be 166th episode. So.
All right. So great.
It's been going strong, so we're going to keep chugging along. So Ben, thanks for coming on, brother. And to the listeners, get out and do the things. I'll see you on the next one.